you have to make the decision, and I would ask you this question directly. Is ISIL, are they a direct threat right now to the United States?
Yes, and I'll explain why. If you recall, 9/11 was possible because a group named Al-Qaeda was able to establish a safe haven of operation in Afghanistan that was provided to them by the Taliban. And from that safe haven in Afghanistan is how they recruited, trained, plotted, and ultimately carried out the 9/11 attacks on the homeland. ISIS has the exact same ambitions. In fact, ISIS started out as part of Al-Qaeda, and actually Al-Qaeda has kicked ISIS out, or at least cut links with them, because Al-Qaeda thinks that ISIS is too radical. Think about that for a moment. So this group is extremely dangerous. What they are trying to do now is they are trying to establish a caliphate, basically a Sharia country that overlaps existing areas of Syria, Iraq, and potentially even Jordan. If they were ever able to set up a place like that, they will use that as a base of operation for external operations. This group has active and vibrant external operation desires to attack here in the United States, not simply to create havoc in that part of the world. So the answer is this is history trying to repeat itself, and we shouldn't let it happen.
Yeah. Senator Marco Rubio joining us this morning on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. Listen, I agree with you, and I think that is part of the concern, because if you look towards 2016 per se and the next president of the United States, wouldn't you agree that the next president has to have some foreign policy chops? And not only that, but somebody who is going to say that this is a threat. And that, I think, is a concern to many, that there is this notion that you appease as opposed to understand what the threat is. It's not about oil. It's not about land. It's bigger than this.
Yeah, first of all, foreign policy, like all policy making, is about decision making. So you need someone that has good judgment. And the thing about foreign policy is that there are very rarely an easy answer. This notion of, there's a good guy and a bad guy, and it's easy, we just line up on the side of the good guys. Well, that doesn't usually apply, especially in 21st century foreign policies. Iraq is a perfect example. It's not like the Shia government that runs that country is the good guys. Maliki's been a terrible prime minister. He has support from Iran, who's a state sponsor of terrorism. But the other side of it is a group that has an active desire to establish a foothold and then use it to attack Americans here in the United States and around the world. So you have to make a pragmatic decision. You have to choose between two less than ideal options. Which of the two is the better approach? So certainly this president, I think, has failed that test time and again. And we do need new leaders that are able to make that decision wisely.
So what would you specifically like to see the president do? What would you like to see done right now?
Well, first, let me say that I believe he is beginning at least to do the first steps of what I'd like to see done. He has ordered these 300 operation forces into Iraq. And my hope is that that is the first step in a multi-step process that ultimately allows us to carry out airstrikes using a combination of airplanes, unmanned vehicles, and missiles launched from sea and land to attack the supply route that ISIS uses. Their base of command and control is still in Syria. What I would like to see us do is both target that command and control structure in Syria, but also cut off those three main supply lines that are running over the Iraqi-Syrian border and sever them so you can cut off the ISIS troops in Iraq from their supply line that comes out of Syria. And I think if we did that, that would certainly impede the ability of ISIS to establish the foothold. Right now, they control basically the entire Syrian-Iraqi border.
Yeah. Yeah, and they just do, and right now there's no pushback. It feels as if we're sitting back and watching this all happen, and they know nothing is going to happen to them. And so ultimately, we can do this without boots on the ground. We've proven that we can do this. We've proven that we can win in Iraq. So that's part of it as well, right? The fact that if there's a well-established, laid-out plan, we can make something happen that would be a positive.
Well, again, in order to carry out these strikes, you're going to need some accurate visual capabilities, and some of that will involve potentially special operations forces on the ground to help you with targeting. Not with the kind of combat, we're not going to send tanks and so forth, but I'm talking about the sort of ground operations that help you with targeting through special operations forces. So I think, look, I don't pretend to be, by the way, someone who's going to design the war plans, and that's not the president's job either, or that of the U.S. Senator. We have the world's greatest military tacticians working for the United States, and
right,
they'll put before the president a number of viable options.
Right, but certainly you're not going to sit back. Right, you're not going to sit back and just let it happen. I mean, it's like this president.
In fairness, in fairness, for all we know, the president has made that decision, and of course, you can't just flip the switch and do this overnight. I mean, there are things you need to do running up to that to lay the groundwork for that sort of operation. And in fairness, that's what he may have decided to do. Again, I'm not sure you go out and hold a press conference and announce this is exactly what we're going to do, this is the time we're going to start, et cetera, because you allow your enemy to take defensive measures.
Unfortunately, this president has done it in the past when he told everybody we were leaving. Right, so it's
right. I mean, hopefully he's learned from those mistakes. Not only that, but even with the Syria conflict, where he kind of came out and announced they were going to do these things rather than just doing it, and then of course that ran into trouble as well.
Yeah. We can only pray for that. Senator Marco Rubio joining us this morning on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. There's more issues now, more news coming out about these VA deaths and how they were covered up to make statistics look better. The news is just horrible. And I want to ask you this specifically. Is it wrong to say, why couldn't we just give these veterans a credit card, a voucher, and just say, listen, you can go wherever you want. We have a failed bureaucracy here with the VA. Couldn't we just do that and just get rid of that altogether, the bureaucracy that is causing all of these issues to begin with?
So we have a bill that's passed out of the Senate that begins to do that. It gives them the ability to, if there are long waiting lists or they live more than X number of miles away from the nearest VA hospital, to go to a non-VA hospital and receive their treatment. The bill also, by the way, gives the Secretary of the VA the power to fire senior executives within the VA, which they don't have the power to do right now. I know that sounds amazing, but you can't fire them. In fact, you're likelier to get a bonus than you are to be fired if you don't do a good job at the VA. And that bill's passed the Senate. There are differences between the Senate and House version, so we're negotiating those differences. We actually start today. I'm part of the team that's negotiating that, along with my colleague Jeff Miller from Northwest Florida. And we hope that before we are done here for the August recess, we hope to have passed a bipartisan bill that addresses your idea, but also gives the Secretary of the VA the power to hire and fire.
I mean, would you like to see that happen? Is that something
Absolutely.
that you could see in the future happening? Just having the ability to just go wherever you want? I mean, would you like the idea of dismantling, let's say, the VA? Do we need it?
Well, I do think the VA serves an important role. I don't necessarily think we should dismantle the VA. Again, if a veteran is in need of care and that VA, for whatever reason, cannot deliver it in a timely way, they should be able to go outside the VA system and get their care. It should be an option that's available to them. Yeah. If you talk to most veterans, they don't want to dismantle the VA. Look, I think we need to be clear here. The vast majority of people that work at the VA do a good job and provide excellent care. We have some pretty bad people, however, working within that VA system that have covered up their ineptitude and has cost people their lives and a tremendous amount of suffering, and that's what we need to address.
Senator Marco Rubio joining us this morning on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. A couple of other things. Boy, did you? I don't even know if do you stay up and watch what happened with the IRS last night? Did you kick back and? It was like a show. It was unbelievable. Your thoughts on what happened and what you saw last night?
I watched about an hour of it, and it was unbelievable. What I thought was even more unbelievable is the attitude of the IRS commissioner. It was a level of arrogance, argumentative. Instead of just admitting you've got a serious problem here. I mean, I want people for a moment to think, if this was the Bush administration, and the Bush administration had been accused of carrying out investigations of liberal groups, and as a result, they started looking into it, and suddenly the emails disappeared, that story would dominate the news in every major broadcast outlet. Every newspaper in America, every television station in America would turn it into Watergate. Now think of the result here, which is basically, you guys are just conspiracy theorists. At some point we have to begin to take this stuff quite seriously. Yeah. A bunch of emails just vanished, and suddenly, but we're not supposed to inquire about it. So I think it is outrageous what's happening over there, and I'm glad that the House, because of the Republican majority, is conducting the oversight it deserves.
Yeah. Senator Marco Rubio joining us this morning on Daybreak 92.5 Fox News. Quickly, obviously, you know what's going on with the governor's race. I'm looking at my watch right now just to see. We call him Charlie Hypocrite. I'm trying to figure out is he an independent? Is he a Republican, a Democrat? Is he re-energizing the Whig Party? I'm not really sure. But I know that Charlie Crist has decided that, I guess, he's not going to travel to Cuba now? He was considering a fact-finding trip this summer. What facts is he looking for, Senator?
Well, I thought he was going over there to change his party again.
Yeah, maybe reintroduce one over there. Who knows?
But look, I mean, I ran against former Governor Christ. I thought he was a terrible governor when he was governor of Florida. I think to give him the job again would be a terrible mistake for the state. I mean, we don't have to guess what it would be like under Charlie Crist. We know he didn't take any issues seriously. I was the Speaker of the House during his first 2 years as governor, and I couldn't get him to take any issue seriously. I mean, every issue was about positioning himself to be nationally famous and become John McCain's vice president and become a hero to all. But every major issue the state confronted, we could never get him to actually lead on. He just wanted to take a poll, and he kind of figured out what the most popular thing to say was, and that's what he would say. And we just can't afford that kind of leadership. Yeah. Again, I mean, Florida has come a long way in recovering from his failed leadership. And to give that back and to go back to where it was, would be a terrible mistake for the state of Florida. Just terrible.
Senator Marco Rubio joining us this morning on Daybreak, 92.5 Fox News. Senator, I appreciate your time so much this morning. Good stuff. Look forward to the next time we have a chance to talk. And listen, have a great day.
Thank you. I look forward to coming back.